Summer is the perfect time for bright, fresh flavors, and this lemon berry sourdough focaccia is exactly that. It's topped with a homemade berry compote, fresh lemon, and topped with a simple lemon glaze. You will start by adding 150 grams of active sourdough starter to your bowl with 375 grams of filtered water. You want to mix these two together until well combined, and then we will add 30 grams of honey and 15 grams of olive oil. I quickly want to mention that this focaccia recipe was inspired by one of you. I'm not sure if I should mention the subscriber name, but I'm just going to give a little appreciation, Jarrett20. So now here I am making this summer focaccia recipe. I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner, but I tested this recipe out a couple times before posting. That way you guys can get a great recipe. So after you mix all of your wet ingredients, you want to add 500 grams of flour and 10 grams of salt and mix everything together once again. My husband is a chef and he actually made the berry compote for this recipe. He does make this at his job and it is so good. So now I'm going to have him bring in some recipes from his job to help me out with my recipes because he's the cook and I'm the baker. After mixing all of the ingredients, I do like to get a rubber bench scraper and I wet it a little bit, and I do go around the bowl cleaning it, that way there are no chunks of dry flour on the bowl. I also like to go underneath the dough, that way we don't have chunks of dry flour under there and we get a clean dough dump. Now you let your dough rest for 30 minutes, that way we can start on our first set of stretch and folds. You want to make sure that your hands are wet for this because the dough is a little bit on the higher hydration, so it will be a little bit stickier than the normal. So now you'll grab your dough, stretch it, fold it over, going around the bowl 4 times. You can go around more if you'd like and if your dough lets you. And then I do like to grab my dough and flip it over, that way I can make the dough strong from everywhere, including the bottom. When I started on my sourdough journey, I only did the 4 stretch and folds and now would leave it, and the bottom never really got touched. So when I would flip my dough over, when it was done bulk fermenting, it would stick from the bottom and it would look super webby when I dumped it out to the counter. So now I make sure to always pick up my dough on the first, second, third, and fourth set. I always do this now. So if you're struggling with that, try this method and I promise you your dough is gonna thank you at the end. So for the second set, you want to do the same thing. You want to grab the dough, stretch it, fold it over, and then go all around the bowl 4 times, and then you want to flip it once again. That way you can strengthen it from everywhere. And you want to do some gentle slap and folds. You don't want to do it too much because if your dough is already getting tight and you continue doing it, the dough is going to tear and it's going to get sticky again. So once the dough starts to stay into a little ball or looking a little bit put together, you want to stop and let it rest. When my dough is a higher hydration, I do notice that my hands do get some dough on them on the first and second set. And usually by the third set, it doesn't stick to my hands anymore. On the third and fourth set, you only want to do coil folds. That way you can trap the gases that are already starting to come out or to build. That way you don't deflate the dough. When you do coil folds and you want an open airy crumb, doing coil folds helps doing that because it's more gentle. So when the dough folds under itself, you're layering all those air bubbles. So if you want a more open crumb, try doing this. If you only do stretch and folds, sometimes you're kind of deflating it a little bit as you stretch it out. So when you do the coil folds, look at how soft that dough looks. You're layering all of those gases. So on the fourth set, only coil folds. Look at how soft. You can see some bubbles on the surface already. You want to let it bulk ferment on the counter for a few hours. And then when it's ready, you want to do your berry compote. So you want to put 300 grams of blueberries with 1 tablespoon of sugar and 1 tablespoon of water and kind of simmer it until it turns into this consistency. And then you will add 300 grams of blackberries and 300 grams of raspberries. If you want to add strawberries, you definitely can substitute some of these, but I wanted to only use these type of berries. And this is the type of berries compote that my husband does at work, so that's why we decided to do and stick with this one. So now you want to mix all of those berries into the blueberry reduction. Some of the berries will kind of cook with the blueberry reduction, but we kind of want it chunky. And then we add 1 full lemon zest and then the juice of that full lemon. And then you add it now. If you add it while it's boiling or reducing, the lemon can make the reduction become bitter. So you want to add the lemon juice right now. And then you mix everything together and you let it cool down. That way we can add it onto our focaccia. This is what it should look like. Look at how bright and pretty that color is. So now our dough is ready and look at how jiggly, it's aerated, it feels fluffy, it pulls away from the bowl very nicely. I don't let my focaccia dough overproof. If you somehow overproof it, it's perfectly fine. I just like a tall focaccia, so I always put my dough in the pan for its second rise when the dough is like perfect to be shaped for a sourdough loaf or a cold proof. That's when I shape my dough. So I am using an 8x8 baking pan with some parchment paper. You for sure need parchment paper or else the sweetness of the berry compote will stick to the pan and then you won't be able to get it out easily. Since I'm using an 8x8 baking dish, I am splitting this dough in half and they weigh roughly about 600 grams each. And I put them in 2 pans, that way I can make 2 focaccias. If you want to make one big one, you definitely can. You can use, I think, a 9x13 baking dish. That's perfectly fine as well. I made 2 because I was gifting one away and we were keeping one. So I added some olive oil to the bottom of the parchment paper. That way the dough doesn't stick to it. And then I added more olive oil to the top of the dough. And then we let them do their second rise on the counter. I believe mine sat on the counter for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. You don't have to overly proof it, as I mentioned before. So now once your dough is done with the second rise, you can add the berry compote. I added the berry compote only on the top of the dough because the berries tend to kind of sink in to the dough when you do the dimpling. And when you cut the focaccia, you can see like the berry kind of like oozing to the bottom of the bread of the focaccia, if that makes sense. You guys will see at the end. But you want to add a good amount of berry compote to the top of the dough. You don't want to overly do it or else the dough can become a little bit gummy. So this is the amount I added for the 2. You will have a lot of the compote left over and you can use it for French toast or any breakfast topping. So this is a 2-in-1. Just kidding, but it is a really good compote. So now you go ahead and kind of spread out the topping and then you want to dimple out your dough. You don't want to overly dimple it because then you'll start popping all of those gas bubbles. At this point, your oven should be preheated to 425 degrees. I do add another 8x8 baking dish on top of this one to create somewhat of a lid because sometimes the berry compote sweetness can burn fast. So what I like to do is put like a lid on it or some aluminum foil to cover up some of the heat from directly hitting the compote. That way it doesn't burn. So we bake it for 15 minutes with this top lid on and then 15 minutes with the lid off. That way it can brown on top a little bit and it can have that beautiful color. This is what the focaccias look like. They turned out perfect, beautiful. They smell amazing. I made this lemon glaze with some powdered sugar and lemon juice, and then I topped it off as soon as the focaccia was done cooling down. That way the icing didn't melt. And oh my gosh, guys, this is the perfect summer recipe. You guys have to try it. The berry mixture is not as sweet since we only added 1 tablespoon of sugar, so it is so light and just bright. To cut it, I do take it out of the baking pan, and look at how easy it is to remove from the parchment paper. If you bake it in a regular baking dish, not the disposable ones, the focaccia will definitely stick because of the sweetness of the berries. I will link the recipe down below so you guys can screenshot it, and let's go ahead and cut this beauty. It's perfect. It has a good little crunch on the outside. The berries didn't make it gummy whatsoever. It's super fluffy, super soft. Look at that crumb. It's perfect. I want to thank you so much for watching today's video. If you made it to the end, go ahead and give this video a like, a comment maybe. Give me more ideas of what you guys want to see. I already have a little list of more recipes that I'm working on. So thank you so much to everyone who gave me all of that feedback, because now I have many ideas and I am working very hard to put out more videos for you guys. That way you guys can continue to bake at home for you and your families and impress everyone, because these, like, look at that. It's tall, it's fluffy, it's full of flavor, and I hope you guys give this recipe a try. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.